The Forgotten Colony. The silence of space had kept Earth's greatest secret for 30 years. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the observation deck of the UES horizon, watching the brown and green world of Kepler 442b grow larger through the reinforced glass. This was humanity's second attempt at interstellar colonization. The first had ended in mystery and heartbreak when the colony ship Pioneer vanished without a trace in 2157. Captain Marcus Vale joined her at the window, his weathered face reflecting the amber light of the distant star. "Preliminary scans show the planet is exactly what we hoped for," he said. "Breathable atmosphere, fresh water, no immediate signs of hostile life. We should have sent people here 30 years ago instead of chasing that signal to the Vega system." Sarah nodded absently, her scientific mind already cataloging the possibilities. The Pioneer had been heading toward a different star system entirely when they lost contact. Standard protocol assumed equipment failure or collision with space debris. No one had expected to find anything here except an empty world ready for human settlement. The landing party descended through wispy clouds toward the northern continent. Their shuttle touched down in a valley between two mountain ranges where orbital surveys had detected the strongest signs of water and mineral resources. As the team began setting up their temporary base camp, Sarah's equipment started picking up something unusual. "Captain," she called out, frowning at her readings, "I'm detecting metallic compounds in the soil that don't match the planetary composition. These trace elements, they're not natural." Vale walked over, his military training making him instantly alert to anything out of place. "What kind of metals?" "Titanium steel alloys, the kind we use in spacecraft construction." Sarah's voice grew quiet as the implications hit her. "Sir, I think someone was here before us." The search began immediately. Using ground-penetrating radar and atmospheric analysis, the team started mapping the valley for any signs of previous human presence. What they found changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Buried beneath 3 decades of plant growth and soil, they discovered the remains of a settlement. Not the wreckage of a crashed ship, but the foundations of buildings, carefully planned and constructed. Someone had tried to build a home here. "This is definitely human construction," reported Chief Engineer Lisa Park as she examined the metal fragments. "Same architectural principles we teach at the Colonial Academy. But look at this." She held up a twisted piece of machinery. "This shows signs of energy weapon damage. High-powered plasma discharge, I'd guess." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's cool evening air. "Energy weapons? But we never developed anything like that. Our most advanced weapons are still projectile-based." The mystery deepened when they found the message. Hidden inside a sealed container buried beneath what had once been the settlement's central building, they discovered a data core protected by electromagnetic shielding. When they finally managed to extract the information, Sarah had to sit down. As she read the contents, the message was from Colonel Diana Wright, commander of the Pioneer Colony mission. It was dated 3 months after their ship had officially gone missing. "If anyone from Earth is reading this, you need to know the truth," the recording began. "We weren't lost in space, we were captured. There are others out here, Sarah, aliens. They call themselves the Hegemony, and they've been watching Earth for decades. They took our ship, enslaved our people, and transported us here to work in their mining operations." The recording continued with details that made Sarah's blood run cold. The aliens had advanced technology far beyond human understanding. They harvested resources from dozens of worlds using slave labor from primitive species. Humans were just the latest addition to their workforce. "We managed to escape during a transport to the mining complex," Wright's voice continued. "But they'll be back. They always come back. If Earth sends another mission, tell them to be careful. Tell them we're still alive, scattered across a dozen worlds in this sector. And tell them—" The message cut off abruptly. Captain Vale immediately established communication with Earth, but the reply took hours to arrive due to the vast distance. When it came, the response was swift and decisive. Admiral Rosa Santos herself appeared on the communication screen, her expression grim. "Dr. Chen, Captain Vale, you've just uncovered the greatest crisis in human history. We're dispatching the entire Colonial Defense Fleet to your location. Estimated arrival in 6 months. Under no circumstances are you to make contact with any alien vessels or signals. We're coming to bring our people home. But the aliens were already coming to them. The attack came without warning on their 15th day on the planet. Sarah was analyzing soil samples when the sky suddenly filled with ships that seemed to bend light around their edges. They were elegant and terrifying, moving with impossible grace through the atmosphere. The lead ship landed in the valley, and from it emerged beings that challenged every assumption about alien life. They were tall and reptilian, with intelligence gleaming in their golden eyes. Their leader wore armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "I am Overlord Kethron of the Hegemony," the alien announced through a translation device. "You have violated quarantine protocols by establishing presence on this world. Your species was designated as non-contact pending evaluation for integration." Captain Vale stepped forward, his hand resting on his sidearm. "Integration? What does that mean?" "It means your people will serve the greater galactic community through productive labor. The Hegemony has voted unanimously on this matter. Earth remains under isolation while your population provides necessary resources for more advanced civilizations." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. "Voted? How long have you known about us?" "Your species has been under observation for 73 of your years. The Galactic Council determined that premature contact would be disruptive to the established order. Your people are better suited to physical tasks than intellectual pursuits." Sarah felt rage building in her chest. These aliens had been watching Earth, making decisions about humanity's future without ever asking what humans wanted. They had stolen the pioneer colonists and turned them into slaves, all while pretending to be civilized. "We have families, hopes, dreams," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "We're not animals to be put to work." Catherine's golden eyes showed something that might have been amusement. "Your emotional responses are noted. However, the decision has been made. Your ship will be impounded, and you will join your fellow humans in the mining operations of Sector 7. The process will be less traumatic if you cooperate." That was when Sarah realized they had made a critical mistake. The aliens had been watching Earth, but they had been watching from a distance. They knew about human technology and human society, but they didn't understand the human spirit. Captain Vale's response proved her right. Instead of surrendering, he activated an emergency beacon that would broadcast their location to the approaching Earth fleet. "You want to fight, you'll get one, but you should know something about humans first." "What is that?" Catherine asked, clearly unconcerned. "We never give up." The alien seemed to consider this. "Your resistance will be noted in your work assignments. Guards, secure the humans for transport." As the alien soldiers moved forward, Sarah caught sight of something that made her heart leap with hope. In the distance, barely visible through the atmospheric haze, she could see lights in orbit. Not alien ships, but something else. Something that looked suspiciously like human engineering. The colonists of the Pioneer hadn't just escaped to this world. They had been building something. And if Sarah was right about what she was seeing, the aliens were about to learn that 30 years of human determination could accomplish the impossible. The galaxy had voted to enslave humanity, but humanity hadn't voted to accept that decision. The reckoning Admiral Rosa Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays showing alien ship positions throughout the Kepler system. 3 months had passed since Dr. Chen's emergency beacon had reached Earth. 3 months of desperate preparation and impossible decisions. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a signal from the planet's surface. It's human, but not from Dr. Chen's team." Rosa moved quickly to the communication station. The voice that came through was weathered, older, but unmistakably human. "Earth Fleet, this is Colonel James Wright, formerly of the Pioneer Colony mission. I assume you're here for the people captured on the surface. Before you do anything rash, you need to understand what you're walking into." Rosa gripped the edge of the console. Wright had been listed as killed in action, according to the alien records they had intercepted. "Colonel Wright, this is Admiral Santos. We thought you were dead. The Hegemony likes people to think that. Makes it easier to control the other slaves. Admiral, we've been preparing for this day for 30 years. Every human in this sector has been working toward one goal: freedom. But we need your fleet to do exactly what we tell you, when we tell you, or a lot of people are going to die. The plan that Wright outlined was audacious beyond belief. The captured humans hadn't spent 3 decades just surviving in alien mines and factories. They had been learning, adapting, and planning. Every human slave had become a spy, memorizing alien technology, mapping their captors' weaknesses, and slowly building a network that spanned dozens of worlds. The aliens made one critical mistake, Wright explained. They assumed we would break. Instead, we pretended to break while staying connected across the entire sector. We know every ship design, every weapon system, every communication protocol they use. And we've been making friends. Friends? Rosa asked. The hegemony doesn't just enslave humans, Admiral. There are 17 other species working alongside us. Most of them have been slaves for centuries, but humans taught them something new: hope. The revelation that humanity wasn't alone in their suffering changed everything about Earth's approach to the crisis. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a liberation war that could free an entire section of the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen's voice suddenly broke through the communication. Admiral, they're moving us to a transport ship. Whatever you're planning, it needs to happen now. Rosa made a decision that would echo through human history. All ships begin Operation Prometheus. Colonel Wright, execute your plan. What followed was unlike any battle in recorded history. The engagement began not with Earth's ships firing on alien vessels, but with the aliens' own technology turning against them. Across 17 different worlds, human slaves simultaneously began activating devices they had spent decades secretly building and hiding. Mine facilities that had operated for centuries suddenly exploded from within. Communication networks that connected the entire hegemony sector went dark. Transport ships found their engines shutting down as hidden viruses, programmed by enslaved humans who had learned alien computer systems, began spreading through their networks. Maya Okafor, a software engineer who had been captured as a child 30 years earlier, watched from her hidden position as the slave compound's security systems failed exactly as planned. Around her, humans and aliens who had never known freedom began to move with purpose and coordination that shocked their former captors. Now, she shouted, and hundreds of beings who had been slaves moments before became a liberation army. On the planet's surface, Dr. Chen watched in amazement as lights began appearing all around the valley. Not alien ships, but human-built craft that had been hidden for decades. The colonists from the Pioneer hadn't just escaped to this world. They had built an entire secret civilization, complete with manufacturing capabilities and defensive systems. Overlord Kethron found himself surrounded not by primitive humans, but by a coordinated force that knew his every weapon, understood his every tactic, and had turned his own technology against him. "This is impossible," he hissed as his soldiers found their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning. "Your species lacks the intelligence for such coordination." Captain Vale smiled grimly. "That's what happens when you underestimate people for 30 years. We had a lot of time to figure out how to beat you." The battle for the Kepler system became a rout. Alien ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries found themselves outmaneuvered by human tactics and crippled by their own compromised systems. More importantly, species that had been enslaved for generations were fighting back with human-taught strategies and human-inspired determination. But the real shock came when the hegemony's reinforcement fleet arrived from the Galactic core. Instead of finding a minor slave revolt, they encountered something unprecedented. A coalition of free species working together, led by humans who refused to accept defeat. Ambassador Veltar, an insectoid alien who had secretly opposed the hegemony, for decades made contact with Admiral Santos directly. "Admiral, what your species has accomplished in 30 years my people couldn't achieve in 3 centuries. We want to join your alliance." Rosa found herself making decisions that would reshape galactic politics. "The only requirement for our alliance is simple. No species enslaves another. If you can agree to that, you're welcome." The final confrontation came not in space, but in the hegemony's council chambers. Overlord Kethron, captured during the liberation of the mining worlds, found himself standing before a tribunal that included humans and 17 other species he had once considered property. Dr. Chen, now serving as Earth's xenobiologist ambassador, addressed the captured alien leader. "You said we lacked the intelligence for advanced thinking. You were wrong. What we possess is something your species never developed, the ability to see other beings as equals worth fighting for." Kethron's golden eyes showed confusion. "You have won. Why do you not simply enslave us as we enslaved you?" The question that had haunted human philosophy for centuries was answered by Captain Vale with simple honesty. "Because if we did that, we'd become you. And humans didn't fight for 30 years just to replace one empire with another. The hegemony surrender marked the beginning of a new era in galactic history. The coalition that had formed around human leadership became the foundation for the first truly representative galactic government, where species worked together as equals rather than master and slave." Admiral Santos stood on the observation deck of the space station that would become the new galactic capital, watching ships from dozens of worlds working together to build something unprecedented. Dr. Chen joined her, carrying reports from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was documenting decades of hegemony crimes. "The other species keep asking us the same question," Chen said. "They want to know how humans stayed hopeful for 30 years when everything seemed impossible." Rosa smiled, thinking of the colonists who had never given up, the slaves who had never stopped planning, and the children like Maya Okafor who had grown up in captivity but never stopped believing in freedom. "Maybe that's just what humans do," she said. "We hope when hope seems pointless. We plan when planning seems impossible, and we never accept that things can't be better than they are." Across the galaxy, in mines and factories and research stations that were no longer prisons, former slaves of dozens of species were learning what humans had always known: that freedom isn't given, it's taken, and once taken, it's worth any sacrifice to keep. The Silent Watchers had become the galaxy's loudest voice for justice, and the universe would never be the same.